Hello everybody, this is GamePro24X back with another Metal Gear Survive video. And this is a video that a lot of you have been waiting for, and it is a discussion about what is like the best bow and whatnot. But to be honest, after doing a whole lot of research, the question shouldn't be what is the best bow. The question should be more of what is the best bow depending on what you want to do. So to quickly surmise what we're going to look at, we're going to look at every single bow that is available in the game, which kind of perks comes with it and whatnot, and highlighting all their strengths and weaknesses. Now after collecting all the different kinds of bows that you could possibly get in this game and testing them out and just sitting around and theorizing and also just having to playtest them myself, there really is no such thing as a good or a bad bow. Each bow is great in their own right, it just depends on what you want to do. And we'll go over those what you want to do much later in the video. And lastly, when it comes to the critical hit rate testing, there are some bows that have the same exact critical hit rate, but obviously during their own individual test, they all had varying different results. So I'm going to definitely just take the best result for that category and just apply it to every bow that has the same critical hit rate output. To quickly surmise what it is I just explained, basically look at it this way. You have a gun that has a 50% critical hit rate, right? Well, in one test, you got, out of 100 shots, you got 50 shots that crit. And the next time you did a test, you may be very unfortunate and none of them crit. So you can't just take that for that specific gun and be like, oh yeah, this gun never crits despite this. When in reality, if you were to test that gun maybe 10 more times, you'll definitely see that 50% critical hit rate show up every now and then. So again, I'm just going to take the best result of that type of like percentage and apply it to these bows. Now the video I have running in the background is not really too important. It's just me testing out bows and whatnot. But what is really important is the information I'm going to display on the screen. So sadly, this is not a video where you can just easily tune out. I could definitely read off a lot of things that you guys can still listen to it, but it may be in your best interest to maybe take a peek every now and then. So starting off this list, we're going to start with the epic bows. And at the time when I did all this testing, there was only the compound bow. And I'll explain more about the crossline bow much later. So the crossline bow comes with two free perks, which is the stunned ability and draw speed up. Now the stunned ability is practically kind of like a shit ability because no one's really gunning for that and no one's really hoping for that. However, the free draw speed up is definitely worthwhile as it allows you to quickly fire off more arrows than if you didn't have it. And on top of that, if you're trying to pull the draw string back all the way, it also helps with that as well. So that's a pretty good free perk to have on a bow. The two perks that are locked on this bow is the attack level 2 and weak point instinct level 1. From the early data mined source that we had of this game when it first came out, the attack boost 2 should give you a 20% attack boost, and you can easily see that with your damage numbers calculated once you have it unlocked. However, the weak point instinct level 1 will also give you a 20% damage bonus on a weak point. So what constitutes the weak point is obviously the head, but for bosses like Big Mouth and whatnot, Big Mouth's stomach or his head or his arms or whatnot, whatever gives you yellow damage numbers, just regular yellow damage numbers, those are considered weak points. When you see that flash yellow, that means you got a critical. Now, all the tests were done here in the staging area with the test dummies. So here are the numbers of every single bow, starting with this one. So the body does 334 damage, headshots do 528 damage, the body shot crits is 612, and headshot crits are 806. Now, out of all the bows that do not have any critical hit rate perks at all, there was one other bow, so I took the stats from that. So I did 3 individual tests, firing 30 arrows for all these bows and for this bow as well. So here are the stats for that. And it's real simple to read. I only named off whatever arrow did the crit and how many crits were done. So for example, on test 1, arrows number 2 and 12 crit out of all 30 arrows in that one test. And of course, we also have a percentage of the average when it comes to all that as well. So out of all of those tests, we're going to take the best one when it comes to critting, and we're going to apply it to the whole damage calculation. So with a bow like this that has no critical hit rate mods at all, the best they could possibly do is possibly hit twice out of 30 shots. So if we were to crunch all these numbers on the body hits itself, you will do over 9,000 damage. For regular headshots, you will do 14,000 damage, almost 15,000. For body crits, you will do 1,200 damage. And for headshot crits, you will do over 1,600 damage. Now, if you read in the very beginning of this video, there was a lot of individual niches that need to be covered when it comes to bows to fully understand why certain damage numbers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And what I mean by that is if you actually look at the stats here, you can obviously tell that the headshot damage stacks up a lot more than everything else. However, if you look at the critical versions of the body and the headshots, you'll notice is that there's not much of a jump between both. Whereas with the normal damage numbers, you will see a really big jump between body shot and headshot. The reason for that is because with this particular weapon, because it has weak point instinct, it is obviously going to be doing more damage with the head. But if this bow had any critical damage boost mods, then you'll definitely see a really big difference when it comes to the headshot crits compared to the body shot crits because of the weak point instinct as well. Now this is going to be separate videos covering many different perks and how they work and how they stack in tandem with each other. But all I can really tell you is that weak point instinct does help critical headshots, but it doesn't help it as much as the critical damage boost mod itself. So if we were to combine the overall totals for body shots and headshots, for the body, this bow will do just over 10,500 points in damage. And with headshots, it'll do just a little bit over 16,000 damage. And if you were to combine them both, they will do almost 27,000 damage points for the whole entire bow when it comes to just testing on these dummies. Now, I know testing on the dummies doesn't truly equate how well they will really do out in the field, but in all honesty, even though they're not actual wanderers, they'll still give you a good idea of how each bow will perform out in the real world against actual enemies. That, and it's much easier to test on these than it is on an actual moving, living creature. So here's a little snippet of my notes when I was doing all these testings long ago, and my opinion practically still stays the same. Because this weapon is very difficult to get crits with it, most of your damage is going to be just from normal attacks. So if you're counting on normal damage, then that's going to be the bow for you. Now, if you are fighting a boss, you're always going to be aiming for the weak spot of a boss, whether on Big Mouth, whether it's on its mouth or his stomach or his arms. You will also get a small damage boost because of weak point instinct. However, after you're done killing that boss, you will have to essentially aim for heads in order for you to fully max out your potential in terms of damage with this bow. And I'm pretty sure to a lot of you bow users, as much as you would want to aim for heads, a lot of you are probably just quick shooting and just firing into crowds or even just trying to get body shots or whatever. So I would say most people are not even getting headshots for the most part when it comes to using bows. So this bow might not actually be that great, but don't sleep on that because it might actually do pretty well. But again, it all depends on circumstance and what you're trying to accomplish. Alright, so that was just one of the bows. I promise that the next bows from now on are going to be a lot easier to explain. Now that you guys understand my whole methodology of how I'm testing all this shit and how I came to the conclusions that I did. So bear with me on that. So the second compound bow that you can find in the game with this particular perk set is, of course, the 2 free perks I mentioned earlier. And the 2 locked perks that it comes with is critical hit rate level 2 and critical hit boost level 2. According to the data mine info, critical hit rate 2 is supposed to give you a 10% critical hit rate increase, and critical hit boost 2 is supposed to give you 30% more critical damage. And the damage numbers for testing these on the dummies are 281 for the body, 421 for the head, 646 for the body crit, and 786 for the head crit. So after doing 3 individual tests of firing 30 arrows at a dummy, you could definitely tell that with the critical hit rate level 2, even though it is a 10% critical hit chance increase, it definitely is a large jump in terms of dishing out crits compared to a bow that does not have this perk at all. So looking at this, I would say the two most consistent ones were the first two, where I did 6 crits out of 30. So that's pretty good. So if we were to separate the crits and normal body hits and crunch the numbers, you will have a total of 24 non-crits and 6 crits. So for the body shots, we got a total of 6,700 damage. For the regular headshots, we got 10,000 damage. For the body crits, we got almost 4,000 damage. And for the headshot crits, we got 4,700 damage. If we combine both the body damage numbers, it's a total of 10,620 points. For the head, it's 4,820. And if you were to combine everything together through a test of 30 shots and the probability of hitting crits and whatnot with the damage numbers that I have provided earlier, this bow will do around average 25,440 damage. And of course, it includes the criticals and everything like that. So surprisingly, the damage numbers between both of these bows, the compound bows, they're actually not much different. This bow in particular gets most of its damage because of crits, where the other bow is just getting most of its damage through weak point instinct, which is the headshots itself. So even though this one does slightly less than the other one, I would say this one's a hell of a lot more consistent, because you can do the same thing, the same kind of damage numbers to a boss, but if you're out in the field and attacking wanderers and whatnot, you will also still be dishing out its full potential without even having to try. Whereas the other bow, you need to absolutely get headshots or hit the weak points to really get the full potential out of that bow. So I can definitely say out of both bows, this bow might actually just be better in general for general purpose use, even for boss killing as well. It's not to say that the other bow isn't good at boss killing, because I do think that the other bow will probably do better in terms of boss killing, but outside of that, it's not going to do too well. So I'd say in general, all purpose, go with this second bow that has critical hit rate level 2 and critical boost level 2 as your epic bow of choice. Alright, now on to the purple tactical bows. So first up, we're going to take a look at the most popular bow that a lot of people love using and swears hands down that this is the best bow. Well, after this video, I could probably assure you that it just, again, it really depends on the situation. So let's take a look. So this bow has attack level 3, vulnerable parts instinct level 1, and critical hit boost level 3. Data mined info says that the attack boost level 3 will give you a 30% attack boost, and the critical boost level 3 is supposed to give you a 50% critical damage boost. And of course, vulnerable part instinct is, well, let's just say it's pretty shitty for a bow. I don't know why they would put this on a bow. It just isn't really suitable for bows at all. So I'm not really going to count this. So you can easily just not purchase this and you'll be fine. Alright, so let's take a look at the damage numbers I got. So for the body, we got 305. The head, we got 423. For body crits, we got 660. And for head crits, we got 778. The first compound bow and this bow share the same critical hit rate because they both don't have any critical hit rate perks. And to be honest, when it came to testing, this bow actually technically crit more than the other bow, because the other bow barely crit at all or none for most of its testing. So I used the tests from this perk to apply it, or from this bow to apply it to the compound bow. So this is the original numbers. So yes, this is the bow that crit twice on the first test and only once on the second and third tests. So if we crunch up all the numbers, we will have a total of 28 normal hits and 2 critical hits. So if we total up the body hits, we'll get 8,500 damage. For the headshots, we will get 11,844. For body crits, we will get 1,320. And for headshot crits, we will get just a bit over 1,500. If we combine all the body damage, including crits, we will have a total of 9,860 damage. If we combine all the headshot damage, including crits, we will get 13,400 damage. And of course, if we combine the two together, we get 23,260. So sadly, compared to just the normal compound bows that we have, they did a lot better in testing than this bow does. The one really huge drawback to this weapon is that it rarely ever crits. If this thing could crit, if there was a type of grim rounds for the bows, this thing will be absolutely king when it comes to damage because of attack 3 and critical hit boost level 3 as well. But sadly, because of that very, very, very low critical chance, you're not going to be seeing its full damage potential. And in all honesty, most of us would rather be using weapons that can do reliable damage over the slight chance or hope of really big damage. So I can easily say for everyday use and whatnot, this bow is not actually as cracked up as it is, despite how many people use this and think this is the best bow. It honestly really isn't. Now, here is an interesting thing though. If you combo this bow with Hawkeye level 2 on the Jaeger tree, you will definitely start dishing out its full potential. Of course, the main drawback is, well, you need to draw the string back all the way in order for you to bring that out. But from me doing my own Hawkeye tests, which that's going to be a separate video on its own, this bow instantly became my favorite because of that. So if I'm going to sit here and wait to pull back the string, this is going to be the bow that I'm going to be using Hawkeye with because of the fact that it just hits so fucking hard. Also, when it comes to boss killing, I mean, it'll do normal damage, but again, you know, because it's not critting as much, it's just going to do whatever you see the numbers right there. So it's an okay bow, but given the other choices that we have, you'll definitely see why this bow is probably not the choice for you for most of your experience or for most of your situations. And we'll go heavily into that when I do a quick summary of all the bows at the very end. So the second kind of tactical bow that you can find in the game will come with draw speed up, stability boost, attack level 3, and critical hit rate level 3. Draw speed really does help in terms of quick firing or just pulling back the string, as it allows you to just dish out more arrows a lot quicker than bows that do not have this perk at all. So it is definitely a good perk. Attack level 3 is a 30% attack boost of your overall damage. And of course, critical hit rate 3 is a 20% crit rate boost. So it is effectively double than what critical hit rate 2 offers. So the damages I got from the test dummies is 287 on the body, 399 on the head, 510 on body crits, and 621 on head crits. So during the crit testing, there is a definite difference between critical hit rate 3 and critical hit rate 2, and obviously a massive difference between critical hit 3 and a bow that doesn't have any critical hit rate at all. So out of all 3 of these tests, we're going to use test 1 as the best, as it did crit 11 times. So that is really nice out of 30 shots. So that means we will do 19 normal hits and 11 crits. So for the body, we did a total damage of 5,453. For headshots, we did 7,581. For body crits, we did 5,610. And for head crits, we did 6,831. So if we were to combine all the body shots, we will do a total of 11,063 damage. For the headshots, we'll do a combined total of 14,412 damage. And of course, if we combine both, this bow will do a combined total of 25,475 damage with 30 shots. Now, if you take a look here, when it comes to the headshots and the headshot crits, you'll notice that there is a little difference between them. You'll notice that normal headshots are doing more damage than the critical headshots, whereas if you look at normal body hits and body crits, you'll see that even doing a little bit of crits, the body crits did more damage than 19 normal hits. But for some reason, headshot crits are doing a little bit less, or doing a lot less than normal headshot damage. And a lot of that has to tie into the very niches of what perks you have on certain weapons and whatnot. So I can definitely tell you that if this bow had a critical hit boost level 1 even, you'll definitely see a much different outcome when it comes to that. But don't let that discourage you and make you think that because it crits, it's going to do less damage. No, because the total damage in general is what you're going to be looking at. And obviously, this did do a lot more damage than the Attack 3, Crit Boost 3 bow because of the fact that it just did a lot more crits and everything just stacked together a lot more nicely. Compared to the previous bow, this one, because it does crit a lot more often, you will get consistent numbers. Whereas the other bow, you will get consistent numbers, but you essentially waste an additional perk, which is the crit boost 3 perk, because of the fact that it will never really crit as often at all. So you end up wasting coupon for a perk that's hardly ever going to trigger. Whereas with this bow, all perks are going to be used pretty damn often. So I can easily say that this bow is a lot more useful in general than the other one. And to top it off, thanks to the draw speed perk, you'll be able to launch out more arrows a lot more quickly than the other bow as well. So not only will it do more damage overall with the same amount of shots, you can shoot them out a lot faster, and all your perks will be used in tandem with each other. Also, another really great thing about critical hit rate is that it also affects elemental arrows as well. So any arrow that can hit multiple times, and some elemental arrows can do that, like ice and electricity. If you have critical hit rate level 2 or something like that, you will be critting a lot more often with that one arrow. So this will ultimately do more damage than the other bow because of the fact that the other bow is never critting, and it works a lot better with RPA arrows, elemental arrows that can hit multiple times in a really quick sequence. So yeah, this is a really nice bow to have. It's really good to use for those situations. Of course, the niches and mechanics of the elemental arrows will be its own separate video. That way you can fully understand why critical hit rate bows work very, very well with elemental arrows. So the third tactical bow that you can find in the game will have Weak Point Instinct level 2, Stability Boost, Attack level 2, and Critical Hit Rate level 2. So according to the data mine info, Weapon Instinct level 2 will give you a 30% attack boost on the weak point. Critical hit rate 2 is 10% crit chance. And of course, the 20% attack boost on attack boost 2. So essentially, Weak Point Instinct 2 is the equivalent of an attack boost level 3 in terms of damage. So the numbers I got for testing is on body shots, we got 269. Headshots, we got 449. For body crits, we got 494. And for headshot crits, we got 673. Now, because this bow has critical hit rate level 2, we're just going to copy paste the test results from the previous critical hit rate level 2 bow because, well, they're essentially going to do the same amount of critical hits. So, of course, this is going to do 6 crits out of 30 shots, and we're going to roll with that damage calculation. So we're going to do only 24 normal hits and 6 critical hits, and here's the numbers that we got. So for body hits, we got a total of 6,456 damage. For headshots, we got a total of 10,776. For body crits, we got 2,964. And for headshot crits, we got 4,038. And if we combine the numbers, we will get a total of 9,420 damage on the body and 14,814 for head damage. And if we combine both, we will get a total of 24,234 damage with this bow, with the crits included. Now, it does really good damage. The problem is that it'll only reach its full potential if you're doing weak point damage, which of course for normal wanderers, that's going to be headshots. And of course, the bosses are going to be on their own weak points. So again, this bow is going to suffer just like the first compound bow because of the weak point instinct. Because of the fact that most of its damage potential is being lost due to the fact that, well, maybe you're not going to be aiming for the head most of the time or whatever. So as good as a damage output that this bow does, if you are 100% aiming for headshots, cool, this might be the bow for you, but I can guarantee you that's not going to be possible. Maybe most people will get 50% headshots or maybe even 70%. Sure, maybe this might be the bow for you, but I could tell you that the game is wildly unpredictable at times, and I would like to at least count on more reliable numbers, not just you need to hit this specific area in order to get reliable damage kind of numbers, you know? And the final type of tactical bow that you can find in the game, which in my opinion is probably the best bow you can probably have for any situation, is going to be this bow. And I'll explain my reasonings later. So, this bow has durability boost, attack level 2, critical hit rate level 2, and critical boost level 2. So, according to the data mine numbers, durability boost has a 30% chance to not lose durability. So in a sense, 9 out of 30 shots will not lose durability, which that's pretty nice. Attack 2 will give you a 20% attack boost. Crit hit rate 2 will give you a 10% crit hit rate boost. And critical boost 2 will give you a 30% critical boost for your critical damage. So the numbers that we got from testing are body hits 267, headshots gave us 379, body crits gave us 555, and head crits gave us 666. A very weird number. Once again, we're just going to use a copy-paste test from another crit hit rate 2 bow, and of course, out of 30 shots, it's going to do 6 shots that are crits. So of course, we're going to be doing a total of 24 normal hits and 6 critical hits. So for the body, we got a total of 6,408 damage. For headshots, we got a total of 9,096. For body crits, we got 3,330. And for headshot crits, we got 3,996. If we combine all the body damage, we'll do a total of 9,738 body damage. We'll also do a total of 13,092 headshot damage. And of course, if we combine them both, we will do a total of 22,830 damage with this bow. So compared to every bow that we have listed, and yes, this is the final bow, compared to all the bows, this technically did the lowest amount of damage, even compared to the attack 3, crit boost 3. Even though it wasn't dishing a lot more damage than it should, it technically still does more damage in general compared to this bow. But here's the reason why I think it's probably the best bow to have for any situation. It crits very often with critical hit rate level 2. On top of that, it has critical boost level 2, so whenever you do crit, those crits are going to pack a punch. It also comes with attack boost level 2, so you will get a nice juicy damage buff in general. And last but not least, durability boost. So, like I mentioned earlier, with durability boost, you have a total of 30% chance to not lose durability when you fire an arrow. And if you really think about it, like I mentioned, it's 9 shots out of 30 that you're gonna not lose durability. And in all honesty, if you're running extremes or anything like that, and you're using your bow very, very often, that durability boost is definitely gonna make a pretty big difference in terms of, well, your durability. Because once you go below the 70% threshold, you start to do a lot less damage with your bows. So anything that can help mitigate that is always appreciated. Now, of course, the one main benefit about using the purple bows over the epic bows is that you can level them up to grade 15. So who knows, maybe if you were to level up any of those bows up to grade 15, their durability will be so high that maybe it doesn't matter. But you never know. I haven't really seen it for myself, as I don't own any grade 15 bows. I have the capacity to make them, but I wanted to make sure to test out whatever I can before I fully make that choice and investment when it comes to bows. And I can easily tell you, at least for now, this bow is probably going to be the bow that I'm going to definitely dump my bow manuals, or sorry, my bow upgrade kits into to make this a grade 15, because it does decent damage. It's not going to win any DPS rewards any other time, but because of that durability boost, I will be able to keep on launching arrow after arrow in the longest sessions I'm in, and I'll still have very high durability, and I'll still maintain that damage as well. Another thing that people kind of overlook is that with the draw speed perk, yes, you can launch out more arrows, but you're going to be losing a shit ton of durability a lot quicker. And when I was just using the bows for my normal missions with friends and whatnot, I could definitely see my durability get eaten pretty hard by using those types of bows compared to using the bow with durability, or a bow like the attack 3 and crit boost 3 when I was using Hawkeye, because obviously I'm not spamming the arrows, I'm pulling the string back as far as I can and then launching them. So obviously I'm not launching as many arrows as possible, but every time I launch an arrow at a crowd, it's going to kill most of the crowd because that arrow does pierce and kill a few of them. So it's those interesting little niches that every bow has to offer that really do determine what you want in terms of how you play and what your play style really is. So in summary, this is what we learned about bows today. When it comes to the compound bows, the one with critical hit rate 2 and attack 2, that's the one that's going to be doing more reliable damage than the other one, since the other one you need to absolutely hit weak points in order to fully reach its potential, which that's not going to happen all the time. With the other bow, you could hit anywhere in the body and you will still do consistent damage or even crit and get more damage as well. So out of both compound bows, the second compound bow is going to be the best. One thing to note about epic bows is that I think you can only level them up to grade 10, I believe, or is it grade 5? I don't remember. Somebody told me it was a really low number. It wasn't like 15 with the purple bows. So also keep that in mind when it comes to investing upgrade materials into these weapons. Now, for the purple bows, the obvious elephant in the room is that, well, you can level these up to grade 15 and pretty easily at that. So it's all going to matter of which bow you want to choose depending on what your playstyle is. So the quote-unquote meta bow that everyone likes to use, the attack 3 crit boost 3, unless you are using Hawkeye, this bow is not going to be doing its full damage output. And you can completely forget about boss killing if you're going to be doing that too, because it's not going to kill bosses at a much faster rate. The other bows will quickly get rid of bosses a lot sooner. Now, I haven't done any testing yet, but if Lucky Devil is active, which increases critical hit rates on all weapons and whatnot, then that bow might also do well, but I don't know, and whenever it comes around, I'll do some testing and make some notes about it. But essentially, unless you have a guaranteed way to crit more often, don't use this bow. It's not that great. It really isn't. But again, because of the crit boost level 3, if you could get it to crit more often, then definitely use the bow. It just really depends on how you're getting it. The bow that has attack 3 and draw speed and all that stuff, that one is objectively a lot better than the meta bow, because it'll still deal the same amount of damage. Well, technically it'll do even more damage thanks to it critting a lot more often. So the crits are going to help stack up all its damage, and it's going to do it, again, just a lot more reliably than the previous bow. And of course, the draw speed is also going to let you unleash more arrows downrange a lot quicker. So again, it's just another reason why to use that than the other bow. The bow that has weak point instinct level 2 and such, it suffers the same exact problems as the other compound bow, where you need to absolutely hit weak points in order for you to get out its full potential. And in all honesty, it's just not worth it. I mean, it'll do good damage if that's your only bow, but once you find the other bows, definitely stick to those ones and level those up. That's truly a bow that you probably can't really find too much of a niche. Even if you go after bosses, sure, you may be able to kill them faster, but after that, you won't do well with groups. And obviously, you can't just be a one-trick pony in this game. You want to make sure you're a reliable teammate and that you can hold your own against groups. Not just be the boss killer and then that's it. You just wipe your hands clean and walk away. You kind of need to work a little bit more when it comes to playing this game and working with a team. And last but not least, the bow that has durability boost. It is literally a jack of all trades. It's right in the middle. It has all the skills needed, but only in the middle. It has attack level 2, crit hit rate level 2, crit boost level 2, and along with that, durability boost. So it'll do really good damage, and on top of that, you'll keep your durability really high, because if you go below 70%, your damage starts to heavily dip with your weapons. So this bow will definitely outlast any bow that you have because of the fact that it has durability boost. And for those of you who play extremes as often as I do, and probably would use your bows a lot more often, that's probably going to be a pretty big determining factor. But again, it all really depends on what you see yourself doing. So that's about it for the analysis of all the bows. Well, actually, technically, there's one more bow, and I never did any research on this because at the time I just kind of forgot about it. But we do have the crossline bow. Now, I have no data on this. I haven't done any research on it or anything like that. But in all honesty, this bow has a very, very similar attack stat, like with the one with weak point instinct level 2. So it'll do very similar numbers to that. But this bow will definitely just crit a lot more often, and those crits will pack more of a punch. But this weapon comes with 2 free skills, which is Guillotine and the Stamina Consumption down for the triple arrow skill on the Jaeger tree. At the time when I did testing, currently Guillotine is broken. It doesn't fucking work on this thing. I could be wrong. Maybe it does work. But here's the thing though. Even if it does work, it's still a really shitty skill. Now for context, I believe Guillotine has it's a 25% chance where if you hit an enemy in the head, it'll instantly destroy them. Just like one shot kill them. Which, that sounds great on paper, but again, just like with weak point instinct on a bow, unless you're aiming for headshots, you'll definitely get that full potential fully realized. So even if this did work, it'll essentially just be a weak point instinct perk where you have to aim at the head, which again, for probably most of you, you're probably not even doing that for the most part. You're probably doing something else. But again, it really just depends on how you like to play. But, like I mentioned before, as far as I was concerned, this perk doesn't work. Now, I've tested the one-handed weapon that does have the Guillotine perk, and it does work on that. I know how it works. But with this weapon, I have never seen it activate, and you could definitely tell when it activates, and it never goes off. However, the Stamina Consumption down perk, that one's really good for the triple arrow. If you're using the Jaeger class and you're spamming triple arrow, that's really fucking good. I'm going to definitely do a separate video talking about that skill and how to stack it up with other armors that have that skill as well, and you know how good it could truly be. But I could definitely say with the other 2 perks, along with that Stamina Consumption perk, you could spam triple arrow really quick, and you will definitely dish out a lot more damage, especially depending on what type of arrow you're using, like RPA arrows or something. You could definitely spam this on a boss, and it'll kill him really fucking fast. And because of the amount of stamina you'll be using up every single time, it's going to be very, very little. So you can easily spam that, no problem. And I think this can easily out DPS even the drawstring bows, the ones that have the draw speed perk as well, because you're firing 3 bows instantly, or sorry, not bows, you're firing 3 arrows instantly. So yeah, it will be a separate video on its own, this particular bow, because this is a very interesting bow, and thanks to the perks that it has with it, it's an interesting little gem to kind of like play with. Also on top of that, it has a ridiculously high durability stat compared to every other fucking bow as well. So even though the attack stat may not look that impressive, this thing is very fucking durable. So I'm not really sure. Actually, no, it does make sense, because if you're going to be using triple arrow more often, then it's going to make sense that you will need to have more durability. That way you don't end up eating through it all in like a few bursts. So yeah, that is really nice about this bow. But again, that'll be a separate video for a different day. And I'll reiterate this again. Every single perk works differently than what you kind of expect. So I'll be doing more in-depth analyses of every single perk and how they truly work, and when they're used together, how they stack with each other, because their calculations are very interesting to say the least. And I have a lot of information on my notes when it comes to that, so I hope you guys look forward to that. Also, when it comes to pulling the drawstring back, how much does that affect the damage? And there's also the elemental bows, the elemental arrows. How does that play into effect with things like that? The quick thing I can tell you is that elemental arrows work very well with critical hit rate bows, except for fire. Fire, it doesn't really matter for fire, but for the other two elements, if you're planning on using those, use the bows that have critical hit rate 2 or 3. They'll definitely help you out. But again, those will all be separate videos because I didn't realize how deep the bows can really go and how intriguing every little aspect there is when it comes to bows. It's probably one of the most complex weapons in the game, and I know you guys might think I'm a little crazy for saying that, but hopefully in time I'll definitely make my case with my future content when it comes to that. Now then, I know this video has gone on very, very long as I had to go in depth and talk about the very many niches about certain bows, but I didn't want to give you guys something half-assed without, any really good explanations. So I hope this answers a lot of your questions in terms of what bow to use, because I know there's a lot of you that were waiting for me to make this video. That way you can dump all of your bow upgrades into the bow that you want. So I'm sorry for making you guys wait this long, but I hope the worth was worth it. And if I got some things wrong, or if you just have some questions in general or want to point out some things, feel free to do so, because who knows, maybe I might have gotten something incorrect or whatever, or maybe you guys have a different perspective on certain bows or whatnot. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about this video or certain bows or whatever. It took a lot of hours for me to collect all the data that I did when it comes to these bows and all the testing I did for it. So I would really much appreciate just some quality feedback as to like what you guys think, or if there's any errors or inconsistencies in my notes. So, yep. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Hope it was worth it. This is Gamer24X, and I'll see you guys next time.
Mission complete, and how? They're gonna tell stories about this one, boss.